So this is going to be a cold start for the car. Once again, the car has no kind of ignition or anything, no keys. There's a kill switch right there. You can see the this goes to the battery. This is to jump, start it, and or to charge it, but that is the kill switch to the battery. So technically the car has no electricity at all, and it seems to be doing pretty well because I've had this car sit sometimes for like 2 to 3 to 4 weeks and it still fires up without being on a tender. It's a pretty new lithium battery, but turn it. So that's now electricity on. So the first switch, this switch is for the fire suppression. That's irrelevant. That's just kind of like a master. And then this one is the solid state relay, which once that kicks on, the car basically goes into AC2 mode, as if, you know, you put the key and you turn it to AC2. And then from there, you just press the engine start button like a normal car. And yep, fires up every time. Never had issues with it. The current mileage, 39,268. As I said, the gas gauge works. The mile per hour works, the RPM works. The coolant temp won't come here until it's at about 160 something Fahrenheit. And yeah, everything works. All these lights completely work, as you saw when it booted up. There's no check engine light. There's no even airbag light. I believe they put a resistor to avoid that, but there are no lights at all. I've never had any check engine lights in this car whatsoever. But that's the car running, and then to shut it off, you would just flip. I usually just flip the master switch. You don't even have to press the solid state, and then I just turn it off. It's completely, yep, that's all there really is. The headlight buttons are still OEM, these two. As you can see, the headlights are now on. The taillights are completely fine as well. The brake lights completely fine, as well as the third brake light. And that's about as far as we get here with the street car. The vents are still intact and everything, but of course this car has no HVAC. Anybody that's been in a Lotus before knows that there's kind of like a sill piece right here that usually you would put the stuff in and stuff, but they deleted that to mount a lot of this stuff. That's the Lifeline fire suppression system, which to test, I believe, you click it up to arm it. As you can see, the light is now on. And then, so technically the fire suppression won't go off if you press this button or the button on the outside until that is completely armed. So technically when you go out on track, you're supposed to click this up so that it's armed and ready, so that if there is an emergency, you can press the button or a track worker can press the button outside. But of course, just to avoid anybody running up to the car, pressing a button or something like that, you know, it's nice because you can have it switched off. So, you know, no matter what happens with that button, nothing will go off. 2 of the nozzles are right there. One pointed at driver's feet as required by rules, and then another one at passenger. And then there's 2 in the engine bay compartment, one on the intake manifold and then one on the header, aimed kind of at the header pretty much. But the car currently running, gonna warm it up. But you'll hear probably grind it to reverse right now because it's cold. I usually put it in slowly, but you can. That went in pretty smoothly, but it's now in reverse gear. Now if I engage it. Of course, the steering wheel is just I believe it's an NRG. They work fine. They have no play at all or anything. Comes off very easily, but it is pretty simple. See it all working. Also, I didn't mention, but the cluster also lights up as OEM when you turn on the headlights, so you can't see it at night in case you are driving at night. But everything else. So that was a cold start after sitting for about a week. Haven't started it. I know you guys didn't see the cold start on the exhaust side, but there's no kind of smoke whatsoever. Cold, hot, any kind of start, even wide open throttle, there's no kind of smoke. The previous owner claimed to have the long block swapped 5K miles ago when I acquired it, so that would be around 7,000 mile range now. To open the hatch is just one aero catch latch, and then when you pick it up, there's just kind of like 2 pegs up there. You can see the holes, and that's where the 2 pegs kind of go in. So it doesn't have the hatch, but it's kind of better this way because you can just kind of lift this up out of the way, which I'm having difficulties with simply because I only have one hand, but you can see everything. Everything else is stock. You can even see the header setup is completely bone stock. The only thing is right there, you can see that a custom cat delete was done. but there are no check engine lights for it. I'm not sure what muffler this is, but it is obviously not OEM. It is a fairly quiet car. When you're driving it, you mainly just hear the valve train noise behind you, then you actually hear the exhaust. It's not very loud exhaust. It would probably, I'm not 1000%, but I'm pretty sure this would pass 95 decibels on a track. In general, these engines are pretty quiet, and this one has quite a big muffler. So, but just to walk around of the car, as I said, there is some chips and stuff from track use. This area right here is very common area to get rock chips. Even on street cars, it just acquires a lot of them. On the rear quarters right here, there is a clear bra on both sides. You can see there's the chip right there, the clear bra. I never attempted to remove it, didn't really care. It looks pretty fine, but if you were to remove it, you would kind of get rid of those black marks right there. Same on this side, same thing with the clear bra. As I said, you would get rid of those marks if you were to remove that, and that's the only clear bra on the car. Other than that, the car has little things right there. There's little scuffs right there, little there, and for the most part, it's pretty decent looking, especially for a race car. Continuing around, as I said, the door latches are all OEM. Actually, the door latch catch is actually off of the cage now. It's not the OEM one, which is, I've actually never seen that in a Lotus race car before. They usually maintain it, but that's pretty cool. As I said, the fab work on this cage is quite impressive compared to other ones that I've seen. You can see they even added the little quarter bars in corners, which I haven't seen, and they have a middle instead of a diagonal. So it's kind of set up where the driver's head, if you're tall. I am 6'4", 260 pounds. The driver prior to me was 6'5", so that's why the steering column is actually slightly raised. So if you are tall, don't be afraid. It's not as bad, especially because they don't have the the dash bar going across right there. I had a one where the cage normally actually goes right here on most cup cars, on most cages in Elise and Exceges, but this one actually goes in there, so it actually saves you a lot of room right here, which is very nice. But I had a dash bar that went across, and my shins kind of dug into it a little bit while driving. But this is all the OEM plastic paneling that would be here is completely deleted for the cage and cage room and stuff, so there's not much insulation left. You really just have this fiberglass firewall and the poly rear window to kind of keep the sound out, so it doesn't do too great of a job, but of course it is a race car. All of this is also exposed. Normally there is a plastic kind of center console cover. They did retain the hazard switch, and that does completely work. I kind of use that sometimes if I need to turn somewhere, and I don't have my turn signals obviously in this car, so I just kind of use the hazard switch to let people know I'm about to kind of slow down and turn. Also, as mentioned, the windows are gutted completely. There's nothing inside of there. They kind of just put this tape over the hole simply to more or less just prevent things from coming in there. But if you take a look, you can clearly see that there's nothing in there at all. They pretty much removed everything except the simple mechanism to open the door and stuff. The motor and everything is gone. The switch and the door card are still there. I guess that's just for presentation, but other than that, it's a full gutted door. It still has the aluminum bar in there though, of course, for the side protection, crash protection, but other than that, it's pretty much that. And the tape has started peeling, but of course this is just very basic duct tape or masking tape or something to just kind of fill it in, so of course rocks and water and stuff doesn't fall in there. It has some custom carbon mirrors. I'm unsure of the brand, but they are pretty well made. They're quite well on tightening. If you actually take it off, there's an Allen key behind here, so if this ever gets loose, you can tighten it so it doesn't move. Because I was having it where it would move with the wind, but I tightened it, so they're all good. Have the car. See right there, some paint. The car is a little dirty. Of course, the car is missing all of its side markers, front and rear. The holes are not shaved, they're still there. I'm not even sure, but I believe there's a good chance that the connector for the side markers inside there. So you can see the floating rotors as well here. They chatter a lot if you listen. It's the point of a floating rotor. It doesn't transfer the heat from the rotor to the hat to then transfer it through the wheel to the tires. But they are very chattery on the road, as you can hear. You can imagine that going over bumps, you just hear that. But of course, if you're on the brakes, it doesn't make any noises. But people look at you. Coming to the front, Definitely have a lot of like little pitting in the paint from rock chips, as I mentioned. Track use, of course, gets that. There's a tow hook front and rear. There's this mesh so nothing kind of falls in there. If you know, stock plastic one is just kind of open. There is no mesh on the sides, but the oil coolers are actually completely deleted on this car, so it's not OEM oil coolers. You don't have to worry about the failure of them failing. It has an aftermarket oil cooler that's in the engine compartment. The front turn signal cracked, and the front headlight lens is cracked. The headlights are on right now since we turned them on when we were bringing out the car. The other two are completely perfect and fine. I am on a pre-order list. They're still waiting for them to come in. It's from Greg's Racing Parts, but they do have a pair of these. I pre-ordered them. I haven't paid for them yet, so I'm not sure if I'll purchase it for the buyer or I'll just give the pre-order to the buyer. They're $400 for a pair, but they're new plastic ones, a pair, so I was just going to replace them, and they're fairly easy to replace. It's a 10 mil bolt from the inside of the wheel arch that removes the lens on an 05 and 06 Elise. So the other side, like I said, is perfectly fine. The great thing about this car is there's actually no cracks on the clam. I've seen a lot of these where there's just simple cracks here from bottoming out, but this car actually surprisingly does not have any cracks at all, which is very nice on the front clam. The OEM plastic is still here. The plastic literally looks pretty much brand new. Aftermarket radiator. As you can see, this side, if anything, the worst it has is some pitting from rocks as well, but it is, neither of these are cracked, of course. And then we come around here. But this is the chip. This is kind of the major chunk I was talking about. It's not really a big chunk, but it is visible, of course, because it's white, fiberglass, chipped. And then there are some hairline cracks actually at the top of the door, if you can see that. There's one right there, and I believe there's a smaller one right there, but those are, I think the other side might have one as well. But the same thing with this door, just taped up, obviously for things not to get in. Opens OEM. I sadly do not have a key at all for this. I was considering getting a locksmith to come and get a key made. It's a very basic key just so I can lock the doors when I street drive it, just so simply somebody couldn't, you know, open it at least. If they're trying to steal it, it makes it a little harder. There is also a door net right there. I have it tucked behind the seat, but when it comes out, it goes into there and there as a, you know, race window net, which I will show in the next video. Same thing on this side. This is a mix of dirt. This car isn't completely clean right now, but I did try a little bit. I realized getting the rubber marks helps a lot when you use a PB blaster and a microfiber, or it's a compounded, but this is the most common area for the Elises and Exeges to collect the rocks right there in the sills. And of course there's anything that's really sticking out kind of collects the rocks as well, being thrown from both the front and the rear tire. And then we come to the back again. OEM diffuser, stock aero, stock under tray, stock everything pretty much. It's a completely stock aero car. That was the point of the class. Pretty much stock engine, stock aero, and just coils and suspension bushings and stuff done. Very, very basic, but very, very reliable car. As I said, the top can come off with these 5 Zeus tabs. It literally takes 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. This is also a very lightweight hard top, so as you can see the thinness of it. This isn't like a real OEM hard top that it's thick. It has headliner. This is literally just one thin layer of fiberglass that is color paint matched, and that's it. Very, very, very light. When it comes off, it's probably, I don't know, less than 2 pounds of fat. Polycarbonate front windshield as well, as you can see. A lot of people were also asking about the wiper. I believe the wiper is retained because this is the peg that comes out of the wiper motor to be put on, you know, to have the wiper sit on. So I don't believe they actually deleted the motor. The thing is, the stock inside of there is deleted, so that's why the turn signals and wipers don't work, is because you now don't have a stock like a normal car, like the switch is right here.